Joe, the Big Ten projection are way, way, way too early Big Ten projection. Now, I'm going to redeem myself from last night because Ohio State fans are pissed at me because I said I need to see you to win the big game before I just start crowning you like I do in Nick Saban-led Alabama or the two-time defending national champion before, obviously, Michigan won, and the Georgia Bulldogs. Joe, I cannot stop but thinking to myself all day when we were going to talk about this, like the expectation has to be that Ohio State wins the Big Ten. You know why? Because all of the pieces that they have just brought in, it's like when LeBron went to the Heat, and every year LeBron and the Heat, or him when he went back to Cleveland, or him when he goes to the Lakers, oh, well, they're always in the top. Like, oh, well, I think that they're going to finally get to the finals this year, or they're going to win it all again. They're going to go on a repeat. Here comes Braun with his number 2, his third, fourth ring, whatever. When you acquire that much talent, the expectation has to be winning the Big Ten. Joe, I just, for me, you know how I feel about with talent. There is not a team more talented than them in the Big Ten. It just clearly is not. Can Ryan Day finally get over that hump is a completely different question of what they are as a team. Joe, I cannot, like, sure, we'll talk about Michigan. We'll talk about Penn State. We'll talk about Oregon. We'll talk about USC. And let's do that. I just think that when you put pen to paper and like, hey, these are the dudes Ohio State has. These are the dudes that X team has. One team's got a little bit more than the other.
I think the biggest way now in college football to really build your predictions is look who they have coming back. It's easy for us to get excited over the portal class that they put together, which we did yesterday. If anyone missed that, go check out that video. There's a fun shouting match in the middle of it. The guys that they added are going to be really pivotal. Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs, Will Howard will help at the quarterback position. But at the end of the day, the fact they're returning all those key pieces is going to set them up for this run. The biggest part about this is that Michigan had a lot of guys that fell flat on their face and fell short year after year after year. And those guys were so motivated that they got to that point where they were so ready and prepared for that moment that they seized it. They beat Ohio State again. They won the Big Ten championship. They beat Alabama when everyone picked against them, and they beat Washington. They seized those opportunities. And now here we are with Ohio State with a group of guys that are all going to be thinking the same exact thing. We're tired of falling short. We lost to Georgia 2 years ago. We lost to Michigan this past year that knocked us completely out of it. Even if they lose a game, they're going to be in prime position to win the Big Ten in 2024. I also wouldn't be shocked if that we don't see a one-loss Big Ten champion. I think that's really, really quite possible with all this competition that's now been added to the conference. If I were to pinpoint who I think is that next best team, though, Blake, it's not Penn State. I think Penn State's got some nice pieces, but I'm never going to invest any time or effort or anything in James Franklin, because if we're talking about a coach who chokes, it's James Franklin. The only team that I'm willing to come to the table with and say that they can legitimately challenge Ohio State is Oregon. Their quarterback room is phenomenal, that I know if anything happens to Dillon Gabriel, I can trust Dante Moore to step up and make some plays. Their offensive line brings back both starting tackles, multiple guys on that O-line and D-line, multiple receivers, and multiple guys just in general on their defense. That team, I think that's similar, very, very similar to Ohio State, where they feel like they've fallen short too many times. And they're ready to prove themselves.
Okay. So to the comment here from Tice,
okay,
saying, Blake, this isn't basketball. I'm not comparing it to basketball. I'm comparing expectations, right? Like how you expect for things. I mean, it's the reason why Georgia and Bama have them every year, because of the recruits you bring in. It's why Texas A&M have like everybody was like, oh, well, you got to have massive high expectations for an A&M when they brought in that big class, because when you recruit a massive class like this, sure, with higher talent comes higher expectations. I'm with you on Oregon. I just don't know how I feel about Oregon in year one, transitioning into a new conference and playing in that conference as a team that I can put there yet, even though I'm leaning and massively leaning, even in January, of putting them there. Joe, there's a massive difference that they're about to go to. A massive difference. Because the best two teams that best two games or teams that they played last year was the same team in Washington. They just had them in 2 different weeks. Joe, now this starts building in a conference like this. Those players, we have not really seen the true depth of Oregon until we start seeing them in the Big 12 or Big 10, excuse me, because it's different playing Stanford every week versus, okay, hey, your off week is Iowa. And I know that you say, okay, well, it's Iowa. Well, Iowa plays really good, damn good defense. Joe, look what they did against the national champion in the Big Ten title game.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're not playing scrubs, like the scrubs in the Big Ten. Okay, yeah, there are a few. I'm gonna give a same take that I did last night. I want to see Dan Lanning get there first. I think they're talented enough to get there, and I think that they can do it. Okay. I just think that there's something to be said in reference to a team transitioning into a different conference, man, that's much tougher than the ones you're coming from.
But would you not agree, out of any of those teams that are new to the Big Ten, Oregon is the most effectively built to compete in the Big Ten?
Oh, without question.
Okay.
Yeah, without question. I'm not saying they're not, but to have them in the Big Ten at number 2 over Michigan, I mean, Joe.
Michigan has just too many question marks. That's the problem.
I understand that. I would agree with you if I knew right now for 1,000% fact Harbaugh had left. When Harbaugh leaves, I would be like, okay, argument over. Joe, he hadn't left yet. So I'm going to act as if that he is still the acting head coach. Just how I'm going to roll with it. Be the only thing that I could say, though. There's not another team more talented than the Oregon not named Ohio State. There isn't. So I'm with you. I just want to see them go through that grind every single week because, look, man, it's going to be a grind on them. And, Joe, what's it going to be like when I don't know their schedule? I don't think that they have to do this. I'm just throwing out a hypothetical. What's going to happen when they have to travel halfway across the United States, okay, for a night game? And then they turn right around and kickoffs at 9 a.m. on the West Coast, okay, at a home game on a team that might not be that great, but they're scrappy as hell, and they come into Oregon and start clapping them duck cheeks.
Well, I don't think that they'd have an early kickoff like that on the
Joe, you mean to tell Joe, this happens all the time in the SEC. There's going to be 11 a.m. kickoffs. There's going to be Joe, read off their schedule. What's their schedule? And then
I understand I misunderstood what you said. Disregard. They are playing. Their away games are Wisconsin, Michigan.
Okay, who do they play?
Purdue.
They play at Michigan,
UCLA. Yeah, these are their away games.
Who do they play after Michigan?
Maryland at home.
Okay. You're going to tell me that game might not be an 11 a.m. kickoff, a 9 a.m. kickoff on the West Coast?
They're not going to kick off they're not going to make Oregon kick off at 9 a.m.
Joe, they did it all year. They had multiple to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time games.
No, they didn't.
They played you. Yeah, they did.
I can tell you right now if they did. They didn't. They have never kicked off a game.
Okay, so 2
that early.
So 12.
Yeah, the earliest that they're going to do is 12.
Okay, so 12. Again, we're fighting over semantics here. All I'm saying is, okay, no, I got to see them go through a gauntlet.
All right, I don't disagree with that.
I'm giving a scenario, and you're breaking down the scenario as it's fact. Jeez, I guess that's a good way to end it. Basically, our conclusion is Ohio State and Oregon, and then we feel like it's everybody else. All right.
Yeah. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.